Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to set aside all those flashy science fiction movies and completely demystify the overly romanticized idea of colonizing Mars. Because, let's be honest, when we talk about space, we almost always imagine sleek spaceships, grand inspirational speeches, and the incredible thrill of discovery. But the actual day-to-day reality of off-world living? It's incredibly mundane. I mean, consider this. Astronauts currently aboard the International Space Station spend up to 80% of their time just doing routine maintenance. We're talking fixing toilets, scrubbing fungal growth off air filters, and tightening bolts. That is the true reality of space. So instead of staring up at the starlight, we're going to strictly break down the practical, everyday reality of what jobs will actually exist on the red planet. Because before Mars can ever become some sci-fi utopia, it literally has to be a highly functional, incredibly demanding workplace. So let's kick things off with a pretty direct question. If the colonization of space is actually a massive job market, do you currently have the skills to get hired? We so often think of space travel as this exclusive club for elite fighter pilots and theoretical physicists, right? But building a permanent settlement is going to require a huge, highly diverse workforce. Think about what you do for a living right now. If you're a digital marketing manager, a barista, or maybe a corporate consultant, your earthly skills are perfectly built for an advanced information economy. But stepping onto Mars? That means stepping all the way back into a fundamental survival economy. The everyday skills that humanity relies on right now might actually be completely useless off-world. Meanwhile, entirely new, highly technical skill sets are going to become the most valuable commodities in the entire solar system. To really get this, we have to shift our perspective entirely. We need to stop looking at Mars simply as a scientific exploration target and start treating it exactly like what it will be, a bustling, incredibly unforgiving future economy. The concept of red planet labor really represents the gritty, labor-based reality of what humans will actually do from 9 to 5, or, well, whatever the Martian rotational equivalent is. Just think about the sheer physical toll of this labor. You're working in 38% of Earth's gravity, which means your muscles and bones are constantly fighting atrophy. You're breathing recycled air in deep underground habitats just to avoid the surface radiation. This is all about what it actually takes to survive, build, and ultimately sustain a functional society when literally every single element of your environment is actively trying to kill you. All right, welcome to Martian HR. You see, the Martian job market isn't just going to appear all at once, and it certainly isn't going to start with cozy coffee shops and yoga studios. It's going to develop in 3 very distinct chronological phases. We're going to start with the absolute highest stakes imaginable: immediate survival labor, where sheer desperation drives every human action. From there, if we actually survive, we transition into infrastructure expansion, which requires massive technological leaps and serious resource dominance. And finally, decades down the line, we reach a broader, fully functioning societal economy. Understanding this timeline is really the only way to accurately predict what human labor will actually look like millions of miles away from home. Let's dive right into phase 1, survival jobs. Listen, your early Martian HR department is definitely not looking for interior designers or social media managers. They are exclusively headhunting for highly specialized survival labor. The foundational workforce revolves entirely around something called ECLS. That's Environmental Control and Life Support Systems. You absolutely need life support engineers to ensure there is air to breathe, and hydroponic farmers to ensure there's food to eat. Period. That's the whole list. If a marketing campaign fails on Earth, a company loses some money. If a CO2 scrubber fails on Mars, or if the water reclamation system goes down, the entire colony asphyxiates or dies of thirst. Every single job in this initial phase is a literal matter of immediate life and death. And this creates a really vast divide between what a job means here on Earth versus what it means on Mars. An Earth farmer works in tandem with nature, right? They rely on weather patterns, seasonal shifts, and this incredibly rich natural soil microbiome. But a Martian hydroponic farmer? They operate in a completely artificial paradigm. They're essentially biochemists managing a highly sensitive, closed-loop life support machine. On Mars, the plants aren't just your food, they are a completely critical component of your oxygen cycle. A minor chemical imbalance in the hydroponics bay doesn't just mean you have a bad harvest. It means the entire colony starves, suffocates, or both. The stakes fundamentally change the entire nature of the profession. So in these absolute earliest days, the employment pie is overwhelmingly skewed. Roughly 55% of all human labor is dedicated exclusively to life support engineering, and another 40% goes entirely to agriculture. Every single ounce of effort, every hour of labor, and every precious calorie burned by those early colonists is poured directly into maintaining the absolute baseline requirements for life. There is no leisure sector, there's no entertainment industry. There is only the relentless, unyielding daily grind of keeping the vital machinery running so that humanity can survive to see another sunrise. Once we've mastered survival, we move to phase 2, building infrastructure.
Because humanity doesn't just want to survive, right? We want to thrive and we want to expand. Once that basic survival is finally locked down, the employment landscape transitions into the literal heavy lifting of physical expansion. The colony simply cannot grow its population without a dedicated workforce actively engaged in 2 booming sectors: pressurized habitat construction and incredibly grueling resource extraction. This is where we encounter the absolute necessity of ISRU, or in situ resource utilization. Think about it. Shipping heavy steel bricks or giant tanks of water from Earth is economically impossible. It costs thousands of dollars just to launch a single pound into orbit. Therefore, absolutely everything we build with has to be mined, extracted, and refined directly from the harsh Martian environment itself.
Building a new subdivision on Earth happens in the open air, using abundant materials shipped in from a global supply chain. But Martian infrastructure labor, it's incredibly unforgiving. Just imagine trying to execute a massive, heavy-duty physical engineering project while wearing a bulky, pressurized EVA spacesuit. Every single time you try to close your hand around a wrench, you are actively fighting the internal pressure of a balloon-like glove. You lose almost all your tactile dexterity. And the psychological strain, it's immense. Because a drafty window on Earth is just a minor nuisance, but on Mars, a bad weld or a tiny structural flaw leads to explosive decompression and instant death.
I want you to put your earthly complaints into perspective for just a second. On Earth, a bad commute might mean sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic for 45 minutes while listening to a true crime podcast. The ultimate Martian remote work commute means suiting up, stepping through an airlock, and driving an unpressurized rover out to a barren, freezing extraction site. You are dealing with lethal cosmic radiation, temperatures plunging to -100 degrees, and this toxic, abrasive perchlorate dust that just violently tears up mechanical seals and machinery. It is, without a doubt, the most extreme, hazardous blue-collar work environment in human history.
Finally, we look toward the future Martian economy.
Okay, so eventually when the proverbial and literal Martian dust settles and the colony hits a critical mass of population, the broader economy is actually going to start looking a little bit more familiar. You're going to need administrators to manage laws when the most fiercely regulated resources on the planet are oxygen and water. You'll need an entirely new field of healthcare. Doctors are going to become highly specialized in low-gravity physiology, treating the really unique ways the human body degrades after decades off-world. We're talking fluid shifts, vision degradation, and massive bone density loss. The foundational human industries remain the same, but they function entirely differently under the immense, unique pressures of an alien planet. To wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought. We've tracked the journey from the desperate fight for survival straight through the grueling days of infrastructure expansion, all the way to the birth of a brand new society. As the logistics of space travel advance and this off-world labor market inches closer and closer to reality, how will your skills translate to the Martian frontier? Will your current job evolve to meet the needs of a multi-planetary society? Or will you need to hit the books and learn how to farm in a vacuum? Ultimately, will you be the one building the future, or will you be left back on Earth?